Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Sharon, I'm from Floral Innovations and I hope you've been enjoying our step-by-step tutorials. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give us a like or a comment in the box below, and that really helps other people find our wonderful videos too. Now today we're looking at something a bit quirky. I've got in the studio here one of these very pretty blue watering cans, and it just happened to match beautifully with the blue hydrangea that I have in the workroom as well. Now this originally was a plant. I've sold quite a lot of them. I've only got one left, so being that the colour match is so good with the watering can itself, I decided that I'd create an arrangement with it. Now you'll see that I've put a full block of floral foam into the container, and if you've been watching videos with me before, often if I'm doing traditional work, the floral foam needs to be raised above the edge of the container. If you're doing something a bit more modern or simple and you haven't got a huge amount of flower content or a great deal of foliage, then this sort of style here is not going to be suitable. You need to keep your floral foam below the container if you want to create something that's quite minimal. And for this style, I want to be able to show the spout of the watering can, otherwise the design will lose that very personal characteristic that the container has. And if my container is, my foam is raised above the container like this, when I put a side placement in, it's almost going to hide the style and the characteristic of this watering can. So what I'm going to do is to remove that top section of the foam. So I've got far less foam to cover. That means that I won't overfill this section with foliage or flowers, and hopefully we'll end up with something quite streamlined so that the flowers aren't overtaking the style of my container. And if I just go back to these, I've got two fatsias just to show you as an example. If I'd left the foam where it was and I'd gone in with two horizontal placements, we're almost covering this little spout section here. So what I will probably do is group these together, make the design possibly a little bit asymmetric so that the spout is really clearly shown. Right, okay, so there's my foam. It's wedged in quite comfortably into the base. I could, if I wanted to, wedge some smaller pieces of foam in the side, but it's nice and secure in there. And I'm going to turn it around and work with the spout to my right, because that's the more comfortable position to me to work from. If you're left-handed, you might want to work the opposite way, but as a right-handed person, this is the way I more comfortably work. And this design is almost an extension of the line arrangement that we've looked at a couple of times. It's just a slightly bigger version with more flowers in it. And you might be able to notice straight away I'm going off centre, so I'm working towards my left, which is the opposite side to the spout. And I've allowed myself to go at least twice the size of that container. That means it'll really elevate the design and not over clutter the watering can style of the base. And this one has a wonderful curve in it, so I'm going to make use of that curve and bring that out on the opposite side, almost following a really curvaceous line from one side through to the other, almost making your eye move right the way through and to the spout on the opposite side. And straight away we've got some height, we've got some width to our arrangement, and if I just turn it around this way so you can see it from the front, you'll see that I've got a good clear outline shape to my arrangement already forming. Now this is a beautiful grey. The eucalyptus there again links beautifully with the greyish blue of the base of my container. And then what I'm going to do now is add a contrasting colour. So we're going in with some green, contrasting colour, slightly different texture, although the shape is very similar. So the shape of the round leaf is very similar to that of my eucalyptus. And this time I'm working on the right hand side of my container. And again, this is just to create the outline shape. This is to give me my basic starting point. And I'm just going to use up that small bit of eucalyptus there at the back to hide in and keep my foam nicely covered. And again, you know, the back already is almost filled. If you think back to the very beginning where I had that foam above the container, then I would have had to put an awful lot of material there in the base just to cover my floral foam. Okay, so let's have a look at my flower choice. Now I've gone with quite a contrasting flower combination today. We've got this wonderful blue, and then I've chosen something that's really quite contrasting alongside the blue. It's not going to be everybody's favourite colour combination, but often when I'm working in floristry and I'm giving these types of demonstrations, I quite often choose tints, tones and shades of one colour. But I had these gorgeous gerbera here, and they're beautifully straight because they've been conditioned correctly, and I thought we would go for something quite bright, cheerful, a little bit spring-like in its feel. Okay, so we've got a few of those, and then I have a gorgeous Statice. This is the everlasting Statice that will dry very well. So if you have a cool but dry airing cupboard or a spare room maybe in your house, you can hang this upside down and it will dry beautifully. If there's any type of damp or moisture in the air, then it will rot quite quickly. So it's one you have to keep an eye on. So that's my sort of second choice there. And because I felt that the watering can had quite country look to it, you know, it's quite informal, something that you maybe look at as being a bit quirky and a little bit different, definitely with that meadow and country theme to it. I've picked some of the delightful September flower. This is of course from the Aster family, and this was almost like a transitional material, so it helps link all my colours together. And when we think about harmony, the harmony for this style of arrangement is a country feel, informal, loose, and my colours and my choice of flowers will all link together, hopefully to create a really good design at the end. Right, okay, now I'm going to start with my gerbera, and I've actually picked up 6. I probably won't use all of the 6, but we'll see how we get along. And I'm going to look for a nice straight gerbera to start with. Now I've created my outline shape already. The height is already in position with my eucalyptus there. So I'm going to keep my flowers below the height that I've already gauged with my foliage. And if you remember, try and keep your foliage and your flowers at different levels, so we have that very graduated finish to the design rather than all finishing at a very severe point, which looks quite unnatural. And if we look at it from the side, it's quite straight up, but I'm going to bring them through and down the middle of the arrangement. Now, if you had a choice at this stage, you would go with a smaller flower at the top, working your way down to the larger at the base. That one for me is curved, angled slightly forward, so this one is going to be my bottom flower. And I'm just going to work my way, probably using 5, I think. Now, gerberas aren't great lovers of the floral foam. And you'll notice that I'm pushing them quite deep into the foam, because once the foam is on its side, the water does tend to drain to the bottom of the floral foam block. So I'm pushing the gerberas in quite low so they can find that water source at the bottom. I think for me, gerberas really do prefer to be in water, nice clean water. They're very susceptible to bacteria. They don't like a dirty container or any equipment that hasn't been cleaned properly, so remember to always use clean tools. Doesn't hurt to put them in a bit of bleach every now and again. And what I've done there is I've just brought a staggered line down through the front, just like we would do with that line arrangement that we looked at right at the very beginning when we did our back to basic designs. And then I'm going to bring slightly forward there at the bottom with the one that has bit of a curve on it. I'm going to bring that more towards the front. Again, trying to get it down as deep in that foam as I possibly can. There we are. So, focal line is what we would call that in floristry, and it brings your eye from the top of the design all the way down to the container at the base. Now what I'm going to do here is in this section at the bottom, I'm going to start introducing my blue hydrangea. And again, the hydrangea is another thirsty flower. It is a bract, so like other flowers I've spoken about before, Mollicella is a good example. The blue part of the flower, or what we refer to as the flower, is actually a bract or a modified leaf, and this very, very small part in the centre here is the flower itself. So this has to remain quite hydrated. If you allow this to stay out of water for even just a minimum amount of time, then it will dehydrate quite quickly. You could benefit the hydrangeas by placing the whole head underneath the water for 4 or 5 hours before you use them, and it will allow that head to rehydrate properly and take in as much moisture as it can. And again, what I'm going to do is try to push them quite deep into the foam. I'm going to bring one towards the back so that we get some visual weight towards the back, so it helps my eye travel all the way through to the back of the design, and it also gives me some actual weight there at the back to stop my container moving forward. And then my bigger head is going to fit quite comfortably in that gap there. And not really sure what colour this wonderful gerbera is. It's lemon, there's a bit of peach in there, there's a sort of pinky red in there as well. So from a colour harmony point of view, I'm not really sure what we would categorise this under, but it's a beautiful gerbera. It's one of my favourites, and I love using that in the shop. And if I turn it round, you can see at the back there, I've got almost all of my foam hidden, and I've got a good amount of depth to my arrangement, and that's always an important factor. Height, width and depth to your arrangement, otherwise it tends to look quite flat. Right, okay, so we're not going to need that one. Now I'm going to use this very soft, floaty September flower to accompany my gerbera. Otherwise my gerbera look a little bit alone, standing up there on their own. Now September is another one that's quite good for growing in the garden. We'll salve seed and come back year after year. So if you're starting a cutting garden, or you're looking to add some flowers into your borders, I'm just going to move that one. It's slightly in the wrong position. I'm going to move it back to give me some more depth to the arrangement. That's better. Now what I did there was just spaced out the flowers so they're not all bunched up together and not all squashed in so you can't appreciate and see them. We've just given everything some space to allow for the flowers to all be seen. Now the September flower, as we commonly call it, is from the aster family, and it comes in a few different colours. And I've obviously got the white here today, but can get it in some lovely purple shades. And it's available all year round for us commercial florists. Okay, so let's see how we're coming together there. Now I'm not using a huge amount of foliage in this design. I'm not going to be adding any extra in. I don't really need it. It's going to over clutter and overfill at the base section, and you're really going to lose the shape and style of the arrangement that I've already created. Okay, so it's just now some of my blue, my purpley blue Statice, and the Statice is always in a spray version like this, and you don't have to place it in that large piece. It's quite easy to break it down and use it in smaller sections. That one can be removed and used down lower in the arrangement. And just going to slightly move those A little pesky September flower, don't want to stay where I'm putting them. So what we're going to do with the Statice, I should say, is bring it from one side to the other. So we have some of the darker blue moving through the design, and this will give us repetition of colour. It will give us rhythm as we move from one side to the other, and it gives us a really interesting colour combination to work with as well. And again, it's quite a simple arrangement. I don't know that I need a huge amount of flowers in this style of arranging. And of course it shows you that you can make quite a lovely design without a huge amount of flowers. You know, sometimes we show you designs where I have lots of foliage and lots of interesting, unusual flowers, but this is quite a simple one that you could quite easily do with supermarket flowers. Now again, if we look at this one here, our eye is being sent off in two different directions. Just move out the way so you can see that better. And that is very confusing for your eye. So what I'll do is cut off the side branch so I have a nice straight linear section. And that could be used towards the back. Again, it helps to bring some depth to the arrangement and helps to bring your eye through, make your arrangement three-dimensional. And I think we're pretty much done. Just space a few things out. Just slightly. Now, what often happens with an arrangement is as you work on it, you sometimes move pieces from side to side. So don't worry too much if you get to the end and you feel that you need to move a few pieces in the right direction. I'm going to move that towards the back again. It's going to bring my eye through towards the back. That's much better. And I think we're done. I'm just going to give it a once over before we spin it around. So that's my Quirky watering can. A quick and easy design that maybe you'd like to have a little go at home. There's lots of these type of containers available in supermarkets, garden centres, florist shops like myself, if you want to get hold and copy the design. And don't worry too much if you haven't got the same flower combination as me. Just have a go, play around and see what you can come up with. So I hope you've enjoyed. Look forward to seeing you all again soon, and bye for now.